welcome to the first episode of The Trauma Queens. It's the real stuff, even when the truth hurts. So, I'm Leah, and this is Laura. We are doing our podcast on Zoom because we're lacking equipment right now, but we wanted to make a podcast because one of two things. So, Laura and I can rant on the phone for 4 hours, so we obviously thought we would share that with everyone. And then also, we just have very unique life experiences that I think people would be interested in hearing, or it'd just be something cool to listen back to like years later. Because why not share our shenanigans with the world?
Yes. Thanks, Leah. I'm Laura. So today we're just going to talk about some topics that we find interesting and something that we should talk about. So a topic we want to cover is mental health in college because Leah is a recent graduate and I am a senior. I'm about to graduate. So we both feel like we have some knowledge of getting through college and surviving. So we want to help people get through in a way that is not as stressful. And we also want to just talk to our younger selves, see how we reflected on since we're going into adulthood soon. Of course, we can't do a podcast without having everyone know about us first. So we're just going to talk about a little bit about ourselves.
And we're back. So we're gonna do intros. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Um, you can go first since I just talked.
So, okay, so we're gonna do the basic info of like name, age, occupation, so obviously like what you're doing right now, things we like, pets, astrology signs, all the good juicy details. So, like I said, my name's Leah. I'm 23. I'm gonna be 24 this year. I'm like on the end of the 90s babies. Like I don't even consider myself a 90s baby because I was like November 1999. But technically, by technicality, a 90s baby. I am graduated from college. Like, I just graduated in December, and thank the Lord for that one. We got through it. Love you, Jesus. So I'm working in retail management now, at Kohl's, and it's it's definitely a dumpster fire on some days, but it applies to my degree, which I got, which is business administration with a concentration in marketing and a minor in criminology. All of that in the fun package that it is. And I have two birds, Oslo and Ezra. They hate each other. Um, and for astrology sign, I'm a Scorpio. So that's a whole nother thing.
For me, my name's Laura. I am 22. I am a 2000s baby, so just made it. Um, I don't have an occupation at the moment because, like I said, I'm still in school. I do
Yeah, you're a
work.
student, though. That's your occupation.
Yeah, I guess so. I do work at schools as like a student engagement assistant at the Intercultural Center. But I just started that, so I'm kind of still new-ish to it. I'm getting the hang of it though. Leah helped me through it. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, Things we like. I like anime. I also I could go on a rant with that, but I need someone that's knowledgeable on that to talk about it
I was
with.
gonna say I didn't even cover that topic, and of course, I figured the first thing that you were gonna say is K-pop or anime, or all your obsessions with all your different animal obsessions.
We can talk about that later. They can make it a special appearance.
Special appearance, you're gonna rip out the whole collection. Like,
Yes.
I don't think we understand that Laura has like three different animals that she obsesses with, and has stuffed animals for each one of them. Like she has like five or six for like sharks, and then T Rexes and dinosaurs, and then she likes cows, but we need to get her on that one. But
I don't have too many cow plushies yet.
no, I was gonna say we need to fix that.
We do. The sharks one could have a special appearance one day because I have them all still. I'm in the process of getting rid of the oh, what is it? The identity crisis dinosaur.
the teddy bear dressed up as a dinosaur, the identity crisis one.
Yeah. That's me, but we'll get into that another time.
Honestly.
Um, and then I have one pet at the moment. His name's Bear. He is a dog, but he looks like a cow, which is what started the cow obsession. And I am also a Leo.
Like I told you last night, because you and I called last night, and I like dove too deep into astrology signs, which is bizarre because I never like thought I matched up with a Scorpio description. But now that I'm seeing all these like Instagram posts about Scorpios and like all these things about the Scorpio's personality, I'm like, that really resonates with me. Maybe I really am a Scorpio. Like I don't
Yeah.
know I don't know why all of a sudden it's just aligning for me now. Because like I think the thing that I saw today was like for the Scorpio, you're gonna work through your pain that you're going through and it's gonna make you stronger. And I'm just like, that's just a little too hard right now. That full-heartedly describes me.
Damn.
But I mean that's a little bit about us. It's all the little surface level tidbits. I feel like we're gonna get too deep into ourselves as we continue to talk, especially with this next topic, mental health in college. That is one. So, I mean, let's jump over to the next topic, I guess then. And we're back. And like I said, we're talking about mental health in college, and I feel like that is such a big topic that people talk about, but then don't actually fully think about because you would think like yes your mental health is gonna there's all those jokes say like my mental health suffered so much in college, which I mean is true, but when you actually get down to the nitty gritty people don't talk about it. Like some people just don't acknowledge it, they just brush it off as the jokes, which I think we should talk about it. So I mean for like you specifically, Laura, how was your um experience with mental health in college now that you're a senior? Because I mean I can, as you know, I can go on days and days about mine, which I will, but you're still in college, like you're almost on your way out. How's your mental health doing in college right now, and how's it been through your freshman, sophomore, junior, senior years?
Um, my mental health definitely is something. I'm very bad at acknowledging my own feelings and making decisions because I don't want to acknowledge those feelings. So my mental health right now, I think is okay. But I just don't like thinking about it just because it's like there's no clear decision. It's just something that it's a mental health. There's no right or wrong, or there's no certain answer you can get to unless it gets like really bad and you acknowledge it. Um, my social life is a little down, so I guess that takes a toll a little bit on the mental health because it's like I don't really have that much going on social wise, especially since some stuff is going on. But school wise, I'm doing pretty all right because of how much because I am working with my classes in a more productive way. So I'm not as stressed school wise that way. Uh,
Which I think is good because I mean, first off, I'm not there to distract you, so you can actually get yourself together, which I think this semester for you, it seems like the big thing is focusing on like your time management, um, especially as you're getting into your senior year. Because I don't know about you, but like my senior year was like project, 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 no test. Um, and I was doing all these organizational leadership things, and I was in like this honor society, and I worked for the intercultural center, and I did all this stuff, and then it was just bouncing classwork. Though like we've had this conversation before, my ability to balance all that is obviously different than yours. It's going to be different than anyone else's, so it just depends.
yeah. I definitely noticed that too since you graduated last semester. I'm not as stressed on work anymore.
like homework and stuff.
Homework
I feel
and like
like,
tests and stuff.
and that goes both ways of like, yes,
Mm.
I was there to distract you at the same time. On your end, you didn't have you weren't fully disciplining yourself to actually get it done, which isn't a bad thing. And it it is something that happens. I mean, for me in college, my mental health went up and down, up and down, up and down. And I feel like college itself, like I can't talk about college in one whole. There are so many little subtopics that we'll probably get to because I mean, they're the big things that affected my mental health in college um are like relationships, romantic and friendships. And I think the way I saw myself through college, which that can be a whole episode in itself. The relationships can be a whole episode in itself. The expectations and the pressure scholastically and from external sources like people around me, that could be a whole topic in itself. Honestly, my mental health relied on so many things that like they could each be an episode. That really sounds bad, but like I could break down my life into a good 10 episode podcast in college alone. And then you have to stack on those typical college like school stressors of like, oh God, I have a test. Am I gonna procrastinate? And then just like adjusting to the new environment of college, because I mean you're going into college coming from high school, and I don't know about you, but I came from a Catholic high school where I had like 100 kids in my class, maybe not even. And then I show up at a school, and I also was white. Like my school was white. I was one of few people of color at that school. And then I show up to Millersville, where I'm surrounded by, which I mean, even being a PWI, um, it was still more diversity than I had ever experienced. I was like the token Asian.
Yeah, that was going up to like that, and from the beginning to high school till graduation, I was very I probably there was it was only me and one other in my class that were Asian. So it was very different coming to Millersville and seeing all the different people of color because it was there's still was still not as many with still a PWI like you said, but just from me being one other to there's so many like Asians specifically, not like
Yeah.
people of color. But I was like, oh my God, you're just another Asian. And then the way we met is our friend who is also Asian, who she graduated a long time ago. She got us all together to do like this talk, and it was just I. It was during my freshman year. I think the fall semester of my freshman year, and we all sat down. It was like 10, 15 Asians. I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh, this is the most Asians I've seen in one room. I'm like, oh my, there are more of me.
Look at all those Asians.
Yeah. And then that just shocked me completely because it's like I see them pass me on campus, but it's like sitting and seeing all of them in one room. It was just mind blowing to little freshman me.
Yeah. I like I had I had Asians in my class. Like actually thinking about it, there was like going back to high school, I had and even like elementary school, like because I was with these people through K to 12. Like they were in my class that entire time. But like in that small population, there is one boy who was adopted from Korea, and then there's another girl who was also adopted from China. But then I never made the mental connection. Like I knew that it was like, okay, we're all adopted, woohoo! But like I never made a connection with them on that type of level.
Mm.
Maybe it's because I wasn't mature. I don't want to say mature enough, but it was like I wasn't at that point in my life where I wanted to connect with someone of color who had a similar background as me, because as we all know, we're adopted, and that can be a whole nother episode in itself. But it's like, okay, well now I'm in a college, and it's actually not just like that one story for people of color. It's like all people of color. Like to be very blunt and like straightforward, like that is the most people of Black background and like Hispanic background that I have ever been around in one setting like that. And I kind of, not that I was intimidated because I wasn't, but like I had to I had to adjust to being around that many people of different backgrounds because I was so used to, yeehaw, here's our chicken and dumplings Dutch PA background, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely was a different setting that I had to get used to as well. There was places on campus because again, with me being surrounded by so many Caucasians growing up, when there was places here on campus that have meant to keep people like POCs will like all get together, or there's places like the Intercultural Center where we work where I work, where she worked
Yeah.
at. It's a place that just people can come in, anyone, doesn't matter any identity, any color, race, or anything, they all feel safe to come in. But a lot of times growing up, before I worked there and was knew that I could go in, I thought it was like, oh, it's a place I can't go into because even though I am Asian, it's like I grew up in a white neighborhood, a white school, so it's like an identity issue where it's like I felt like a white person, even though obviously I'm not. It's
Yeah.
like I just had that
It's the imposter
disconnect.
syndrome sinking in. Like,
Exactly.
I mean, I feel that every day. Why do you think that we get called a banana? Like, honestly. So we had a technical difficulty. And it told me I had a time limit while in the middle of talking about how I'm a banana. So that's enlightening. Um, but I think one thing that I want to go back to is talking about relationships in college, which we don't have to dive too deep into it because I feel like actually talking about the depths of everything, like at least for me, the depths of like my romantic relationships and my friendships through college that completely wrecked and obliterated but also built up my mental health, can be a whole nother thing. But to touch on it lightly, I feel like that friendships and romantic relationships that you make during college will make or break your mental health depending on who you're with. Because my personal opinion is that friendship breakups are worse than actual breakups.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I feel like you have like a whole nother type of like connection with that person that it's more in depth than like a romantic one can ever be. Because like per se, you and I were to just cut off and never talk again, I'd be crying. I would
Girl,
straight
I'll
up.
be ruined for like a whole month. I'll just be crying
A
and
month,
screaming.
girl.
My
I
mom
was
want a
gonna say a
room.
year. I was gonna say a year plus. I have to
Oh
go
yeah.
through. I Oh yeah. Like I have to go through the 5 stages of grief, which I already do that with all my relationships, like romantic or friendships. Um, unless like there was a very good reason to cut that person off. Which I mean in some cases, as you know, um I've had that opportunity in college where I had to cut people off and I didn't feel bad about it one bit. Now, did I overthink it a little bit and analyze like everything that happened to make me feel like it was more justified? Yes, but I didn't feel like I had to mourn it and bargain to get it back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I feel like friendships in college, like, because again, I don't want to get too much into it because I can talk about this forever, but I will say the friends that I had in my freshman year, which was very few, um, definitely did not last through my whole college career, and it didn't upset me, but like there was opportunity for me to keep that connection, and I prioritized my romantic relationship over that, even though it was a very toxic romantic relationship, which ended poorly, as we all know. Maybe you don't know. Well, you know, but
Yeah.
some people might not know the depths of what conspired and happened as we shifted from in person to online because of the pandemic. But as my relationship fell apart there, and that didn't break me either, but it definitely, the way that it was handled had a huge role in how I functioned. It completely wrecked my mental health because it was just too much. And then on top of that, I think that actually, to then add that to something else, I think that whole stress that I had from that situation, and then already having the stress of like the pandemic starting, because that's a whole nother factor that is stressing people out now and is a big factor in mental health too. Because all we have all these little like COVID babies coming out going to college now, and they don't know how to socialize because all they've done for the past few years is be on a laptop.
Mm-hmm.
Which then even the colleges are like, how do we connect with these people? How do we get these kids out of the dorms? But so having that, for me at least, going back to it, having my stress of like a very toxic breakup, and then the shift to in person online, and then already having 10,000 other emotions of what the hell is going on to the world, uh, definitely made me feel, I don't even know how to describe it. It was like a whole new type of like confusion, anger, and grief. I like to say grief because I associate grief with the 5 stages of grief, which are usually things that I do. I tend to try to bargain in my head a lot, even though it really does nothing because the world doesn't owe me anything. So why am I trying to bargain with it when it's not going to give me anything back? But that whole period, I feel like for everyone, their mental health, like as we have heard, just declined because I mean, you're forced to stay home. Life is changing. It really tested people's ability to the face of change because I know a lot of people, and I used to be the same way, that they'd say that they cannot deal with change, like very fast change. Like the one person that I cut off said that too, which was part of their downfall. It is most people's downfalls that if you do not learn how to deal with rapid change, which is something that you're going to experience in college because life is always going to be changing in college. You have 10,000 things thrown at you. If you don't learn how to deal with that in a way that's going to be healthy for you, then you're going to be drowning. Like you're going to die. Like not literally, but like mentally you're going to be like dragging your feet to get the degree, even if even you get it, because of how much overload you have in your brain.
Yeah, it's definitely something that you have to adapt to, and it's hard to adapt. It I tell people now that's like even though I'm a senior, I'm still learning how to adapt to some things. Now, I am just learning how to time manage better with schoolwork. Not saying like my previous years were like awful. Like my previous years were amazing, and I did love having all those memories and stuff. But I could have been better with time managing. And I mean, I still got good-ish grades, but I knew like I could get better. So it's like I'm now time managing relatively all right. So I'm getting grades where I'm like, okay, I did put in enough effort. I don't have that insecurity of like, oh my gosh, did I do is it this bad because of this or is it this bad because I did this? It's like I at least feel more comfortable now with like, okay, this is a grade that I could be better at, but it's like I at least know that I did all I could to get it. Um, and my social life hasn't suffered too much because of it. Like been able to manage it well enough. But yeah, the my social life has been a little bit down just because of like just some stuff happening. But it's
Yeah.
like I'm still managing pretty okay.
Yeah, social life is a big aspect. Like realistically, it is it was the one of the biggest aspects for me to my mental health in college and how it was affected. Because I mean, it's two-ended. It's how did I deal with it, and then how did it happen to me? Because I honestly should just write a book about it because there's so much that the relationship struggles that I had in college. Um, I can see, if when I think about it, the maturity that I get as I go through college from my freshman year compared to leaving college. The way I handle sour relationships and the changes in relationships, friendships, and romantic relationships, um, throughout my college thing, my college career, we'll call it. Because especially like my junior year, that's when I was living in a house with roommates I didn't talk to and I wasn't a huge fan of and didn't like, and we didn't get along until like later that year. And then I had like some of my friends from Asia, our organization, but then I'd only see you like once a week. So then it's like, and I didn't feel particularly close to any of you, even you. Like I felt like, because that was like our transition.
Yeah.
Girl, you
Yeah, I
know.
admit
It was like, because we didn't really talk over the pandemic, because I think everyone was kind of just secluding themselves. Like, our friend, our other friend, she completely just cut everyone off, or
it.
maybe not necessarily cut everyone off, but she had told me that she just stopped talking to people over the pandemic because I think it really changed people. But like a lot of the connections that I had before the pandemic were strained. So then I was trying to basically, it's like knocking over a wooden block tower. Now you have to rebuild it again. Not that
Yeah.
you can't do it, but you have to rebuild that relationship. So I had to rebuild that relationship with you. I was meeting new people, and I was just very much in my own head. I felt alone. Like, you know how those people say that you can stand in a room full of people and feel by yourself? That was me. Literally walking around on campus, going to class. Um, I felt like shit, to say the
Mhm.
least. Like, I literally felt like one of the most invisible people on that campus. Which is weird because, then you look back at it, to my senior year where I'm literally like the Asian face of the campus. Everyone knows me. Anyone in like the identity based stores in the intercultural center, people of color, and I had plenty of friends that just like would know me because I'm doing all these things for the Asian community on campus by then. But then if you go back to like years down to my junior year, even before, it's like barely anyone knew me. I
Mhm.
struggled making friends. Honestly, I still struggle making friends. I think I am learning still how to talk to people, which is a whole nother thing to talk about. But especially from how I was in high school, I kind of came into college where I didn't know how to talk to people. I didn't know how to make friends because I felt I was already dealing with pre-existing mental health issues. And then to bring that to college, it was like a whole nother thing.
Yeah. I think for me, it definitely was different and weird because so COVID was over my sophomore year. So like the whole entire sophomore year was out. So all the connections that I made my freshman year, because when you're a freshman, you make friends with just anyone. You stick to any groups that like wanted you at
Yeah.
first, because like you just want to make as much friends as possible because
Hmm.
everyone is just looking to start a friendship. Well, and then sophomore year is when you like make those friendship bonds, but because of COVID, it's like I didn't have a choice. Like it was either I stuck to them or like I didn't contact them over COVID or anything. I didn't have the choice to slowly cut people or like to slowly be like, okay, you're one of my best friends. You're a friend. You're the
Hmm.
what's the word? Not associate. Just someone that I know. So it's like I didn't have that opportunity to do that. It just immediately all cut off. Now I did keep in contact with you, but it was definitely like you were saying a little bit awkward because we didn't really know each other too much. We only knew a little bit about each other, and then obviously that 1 year apart, it was like it kind of strange. So then when I came back my junior year, it definitely is like we had to make that friendship, like you were saying, because of that 1 year of being apart. But we still kept a connection because we knew we'd see each other. But also, all the upperclassmen I made my freshman year, they all graduated. So it's like all the ones I did have a connection with previously, they all graduated. And then the people that I did talk to that were in my year, I just didn't know them anymore because that 1 year separation. So it was like a whole new thing, having to make new friends as a junior too. So it's not like I had a connection. So it was really different to make that. Also, I didn't even know where half the buildings were either.
Yeah.
So it was like I'm a junior, but I don't know anything about this place.
Yeah. COVID really threw everyone for a loop.
Hmm.
And like, I feel that because especially my junior year too, I had to restart. Like, it, I had to completely restart my my thinking of like how do I make friends? How do I make connections post COVID? Like, do I even talk to the people that I used to? Because I completely ghosted them. And then kind of navigating that because I definitely made some questionable friend choices, but at that time, because I didn't make many friends, but like the few that I did for some of them, they wouldn't be ones that I'd make now. I look back on it now, and I'm like, girl, you were desperate. You were desperate for friends, which I don't blame younger Leah for that, but it's like you should not have done some of those questionable decisions just to make friends. Which
Yeah, the desperation definitely from COVID. I
yeah.
think that was just a lot of people in general. You just want to make friends, try to get those connections back because it was a whole year of no
Hmm.
connections at all. So
Yeah.
it's like you definitely want to see each other or make new friends. So yeah, well me and Leah were both in the same friend group, so it don't really matter. But we both had like that desperation where it's like, especially when we was trying to start our club, we started my freshman year the club. So then obviously when COVID hit, we weren't that popular. So then by the time we came back,
Yeah.
we really wanted to hit the fans, make
Yes.
this a club for Asian Americans that felt safe and just people that are allies. So we just accepted everyone and we accepted everyone into a friend group, whether it was questionable or not. We didn't see it at that time because we only were focused on growing the organization and
Yeah.
also growing the friend group because it was just me and her at that time.
Yeah. Which with Asia, I would not have done anything any other way. In that respect, because Asia is our baby. So obviously every child, like I shouldn't say child, these are grown adults. Every like student that would come to our meetings and would take time out of their day to actually be there with us and like learn about Asian culture and whatnot. Like hell, I'm taking y'all under my wing and you're gonna be my bestie now. Because I was just shocked that people were actually interested in spending time with us and spending time with learning our culture with us. So we did get a lot of people into our circle. I feel like, as you know, some of them we didn't know at the time should not have ever been made. But I mean, you don't know a person until you really talk to them and get to know them. You don't know how genuine they are. Uh,
Mhm.
triggered. Inside joke. But relationships in college are so essential, not just with people like outside yourself. Relationships with yourself are important too. I feel like the way that you see yourself in college too is a big factor of mental health because and this goes for anyone, but especially in college when you're adjusting to changes and you're like shifting from that high school phase into adult phase, then and you're getting like your own independence and whatnot, the way that you see yourself is going to change through college. And then depending on how you see yourself, it's going to be positive and or negative. I definitely saw myself in more of a negative light than I probably should have through my college career because a lot of the times there were instances where I feel like I failed, whether I don't want to say grades because my grades are fine in college. I'm one of those people who actually had okay grades my entire career, but like I like to over I don't like to, but like I have the tendency to overthink, especially I would overthink more, like twice the amount that I do now as like an 18, 19-year-old entering college. So then every interaction that I had with just a human being or a student, I would overthink it. And then I'd be like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. And then beat myself up over it. And I'm like, oh, I'm the worst. And then this is also someone who already had pre existing mental health issues. So then it's like building onto that with the college experience. So the way I saw myself was definitely skewed at sometimes. Like there were a lot of times I saw myself negatively. I also dealt with a lot of, and this could be a whole nother episode in itself too. You could We could honestly separate a lot of these college topics because, like I said, there's a lot to unpack in the college memory book in my brain. But one thing particularly that I feel like I don't tell many people is like how I took care of myself in college. Because I'm kind of gonna be coded with it when I say it. The way that I took care of myself in college was not how I should have. I was not healthy in college by any means. Um, and definitely the way that I dealt with my health, my physical health in college, not saying that I was like not showering for a week, but the way that I dealt with my physical health in college fluctuated, and I got into this really unhealthy pattern of how I treated myself. And that had a whole negative toll on me too, because I would constantly be like judging myself every morning. I'd wake up and then evaluate myself on if today was going to be a day that I'm basically going to torture myself. That I feel like this sounds weird coded, but when I dive into it, it makes more sense. A day that I don't let myself have as much freedom, we'll say it that way, or another day that I could have more freedom. It overall, to go back up from these very confusing coded terms, the way that you see yourself and the way that you take care of yourself also has a um big impact on your college career and just in life in general, but especially in college because you're developing. Like it could be as simple, like going back from like how severe mine is, it could be as simple as your room being dirty. Because they already say, like studies say that like if your room's dirty, then you're already gonna be having like uh not necessarily more negative thinking, but it's gonna dawn a little bit on your mental state of like, oh, I'm walking into a messy room. It just depends.
Yeah.
Are you thinking about how you have a messy room?
So my room's pretty alright. Just don't look at
I
the
can
cable.
read it
While I
on
learn.
your face as I said that. Your face just like something changed.
No, I was like, I can't remember what the topic was.
No,
So I'm like, okay.
I went on my tangent. I was just talking about how personal health and how you take care of yourself and how you see yourself is also a big factor in mental health in
Mm,
college. It affects
oh,
your mental health greatly.
that's it. I remember now. Yeah, it definitely does is something a factor. With me, um, like I said, I don't really think too much about mental health as much as I probably should look
Mhm.
at it. I just don't think about it. I think about more self-esteem than like depression or other mental health things. I just think of just self-esteem. My self-esteem definitely is
Mhm.
mid going through college. And then you get the freshman 15, but then I had in a way I had the freshman 15 twice because of COVID. So I came back and then I gained another 15. It was awkward. I gained it in freshman year, then I lost it over COVID because a lot of times when I'm stressed, I don't eat. So people are stress eaters. I just don't eat. So that's my way of coping with stress. Not the best way, of course, but it's just what I do. And then I gained the 15 again when I came back to college my junior year. Um, and then my my self-esteem or stress level was more focused on grades wise, where I do struggle sometimes learning some stuff in schools. So a lot of times my grades would be not the best because again, I'd also have struggle with balancing my time management and studying and social life. So I remember this one time I was actually at Leah's house with our whole group of friends, and I I think we were talking about my major because it was something that I was really bad at and struggling with, and it was like a simple question of, oh, what you made of like talking about my major, like how you doing with the classes, because everyone kind of knew how much I was struggling with them, especially Leah. And then I just burst out crying on a chair. And then like everyone just the whole room went silent. And it's like I just kind of like broke down that day, just crying. So it definitely is something where it's like if you realize that it's just not for you, you kind of have to just figure it out. Which will take time, of course, but you shouldn't go to that extent of breaking down, like if someone just asks you a little question about it. And then that's when uh having that social life can help you in a way because it's like they can help you get through that struggle. Leah has definitely helped me through that, and then um telling me about even though I'm switching my junior year, it's not like the end of the world. If anything, I'll just stay an extra semester, or there's always summer classes. There's always ways to work around it. And then how 4 years is just a society standard. It's not really that plausible unless you like head on with it. So
Especially not plausible at Millersville, as I feel like I
def-
slam talk Millersville a lot on their statistics, and it's just because I've heard them so many times. Being like a student org leader, I've sat in so many meetings with like the administration talking about like what's wrong with our campus. Like I say that like I'm still in college, but like what's wrong with Millersville? And the big topic, without saying numbers, is the retention rate and like their rate at graduation for people to graduate in 4 years. So they're both bad. Like the amount for the retention rate at which students stay there is really low. The amount at which people graduate in 4 years is low. Both of them are lower than what they should be, like significantly lower than what they should be compared to
yeah.
other colleges in like the PASHE system, at least from what I can remember. So and Millersville has had those many meetings, hence why I've been invited to them of like asking the students themselves, so what's the issue? And then I can give I could just give them the laundry list of like basic needs for kids. So your food sucks, your Wi-Fi sucks, your dorms have mold, they're not livable. Like there's three essential things for a college student that you cannot get right, and then you still wonder why people are leaving and not graduating on time. And then so many other things. But I digress. We're not talking about why Millersville is bad right now. We're talking about mental health.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
but that goes to expectations too. Like I feel like Millersville has such high expectations for like in particular Millersville has such high expectations for their students to graduate in 4 years, which I wonder. I haven't been on campus in a while, but they used to have those posters up that were like, "Here's your plan to graduate in 4 years and how you can do it if you take 5 credits now or 4 credits now." And it's like, or 5 credits or 4 credits. I mean, 5 or 4 classes. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's like, why are you hanging this up when kids are not even hitting this? Like, you can
Mhm.
promote this all you want, but kids are not going to hit it and actually succeed with this plan because your plan is crap, to
Right.
say the
I
least.
remember that. I remember those posters. There was like I saw one or two hung up my freshman year in like one of the popular buildings in the snack. I don't see them
Mm-hmm.
anymore, so I don't
Because
know
it
if they
doesn't
still
work.
yeah, it doesn't work. But it was like they would it would how they would have it is kind of like a math problem. So it'll be 5 classes times 4 credits is 20, and then they'll add up all the semesters. So then it'll end up like in 4 years you'll have 120 credits, which that is required to graduate. Just in general. So they'll say if you take 5 classes, then you can graduate in 4 years because you meet the 120 credits. But it doesn't talk about the option of summer classes or winter classes or um, it doesn't talk about the option where there's like 3 credit classes. It just says if you take 4 credit classes. So it's like it's very obscure. It's like there's
It's
multiple different
absurd.
ways.
It's like they're making this plan thinking like every college student is sane. Like and they're doing it under the assumption, let me get my words right. They're doing it under the assumption that students can afford to take a class on an off semester when they can barely get financial aid as is.
Mhm.
If you can't get financial aid or very good financial aid, during like the normal semesters, how do you expect them to get it during the off semesters to make up what they just lost in a regular semester?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's kind of like how it is for me. That's why I've never taken winter or summer classes because I can't financially pay it. I mean, I can probably if I want to, but it's like, eh. It's like, do I really want to? It's like it's that during that time is usually when I get my summer job and I can get the money for the
Yeah.
fall and spring. But what I was talking about is just like the general statement where it's like they always push taking they the school always pushes take 5 classes during the fall and the spring, but they don't tell people like, oh, we also have these things. You can do 4 classes and then just catch one up in the winter. Now, whether they can afford it or not, it's like that's a different issue. But the school doesn't even plant that idea that
Mm,
students can even have another option. They only say, oh, 5 classes, that's the only thing you can do. It's they
yeah.
don't push the idea.
Yeah. There's just so many, and this I guess is going into like what's wrong with the school and how they affect kids. I shouldn't say kids, adults, students, mental health. Um, Another thing that affects students' health, mental health. Um, wow, I just lost my train of thought. It was a really good point too, but it will come back to me in like a few seconds. Oh, it is. I wanted to go into the shift of like what advice would you give to people, especially students in college now, to help with your mental health. And then my thinking was make decisions that are wise for yourself and that you know is within your limits to be able to succeed well with. Because I mean, if you're gonna do it and you're gonna be dragging your feet, then it's not worth it. Because I mean, for me, I can say from experience, if I were to do it again, I would have just waited to graduate this spring, probably. Like for the sake of my mental health, if I okay, it'll sound bad. If I cared about it more, which at the time, to be honest, I didn't care about my mental health as much as I should have, like the past year or so, since because as you know, I've literally taken classes like every single semester, summer, winter, fall, and spring, since the, I'm trying to think, since the summer of 2021, probably. I took classes
Yeah.
every single semester since that summer. And I completely did a suicide. Basically, as you know, my last semester in the fall, I was quite literally dragging my feet to the finish line. Like I felt like crap every day because it's like, oh my God, I just did 3 classes over the summer and I did my big internship over the summer and I'm doing those both at the same time. And then now I have to do another 5 classes to graduate. I'm working, I'm doing all these student org things. On top of that, as you know, I had roommate drama and it all just adds up. And at that point, it's like the Lord Himself is coming down and testing me and really saying, did you really want to make that decision? If I
Mhm.
were to do it again and I didn't feel and I could actually get out of my thinking of feeling the pressure of having to graduate within a reasonable time. Because, like, I took that semester off, but I did technically graduate in 8 regular semesters with taking classes in the off semester. I would have taken my time because I would have been able to not feel like I'm forcing this expectation down my throat and swallowing my pride and my mental health and just doing it because I probably would have been more successful. Not saying that my grades didn't like suffer because of it, because they didn't. It's just my mental health was crappy because of it. Like I could have thinking about the opportunity I could have had. I could have had a clear, okay, I won't say clear, but I could have had a better mental health state, and I probably could have had a higher GPA too. I already hit honors graduating, but like I could have had like summa cum laude high.
You could also
Like
spend more time with me.
yeah, I probably could have actually done better grade-wise in college, even though I did hit honors, but you know, I like to be an overachiever. So that's one thing. I would tell people to be aware of your decisions that you are making for yourself, especially since you're now an adult. For those like 18 and 19-year-old people coming into college, you now have freedom that probably you didn't have at home while you were in high school. So now you have all these opportunities to make decisions for yourself. Make them wisely. You're going to make decisions that you regret, of course. Everyone does, usually during college, at least once. But my best thing to say is at least try to use your critical thinking and what is best for you. That's the
Yeah.
best advice I could probably give. Maybe not the best advice, but like when it comes to mental health, it's like you have to put yourself first, especially in college mental health topic realm. You have to put yourself first, which is hard because like me myself, I'm a people pleaser. Obviously, I prioritize people's feelings over my own, and I'm still working on prioritizing myself, but I did that a lot in college too. So I jeopardized my mental health for other people's happiness and well-being. And I shouldn't have. There are some of those instances where I shouldn't have. But that's okay. We learn. We live and we learn.
Yes. We're not dead. We're good.
We're surviving.
Yes.
But what advice would you give?
What advice? Probably the thing about relationships. Maybe when it's time to say that's okay if they're not in your life anymore, because like you don't it definitely is hard to say not give up on a relationship, but like come to terms with some things that happen. If you notice something's not right, or like with your mental health, or just in general, just a relationship with someone, whether it's romantically or just as friends, like a friendship, it's like if there's a red flag, or if there's something just concerning, it's like it's better to be upfront with them and just call them out and say like, hey, I appreciate if you didn't do that, or like if there's a better like way that you can come to a what's the word?
Consensus, agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A middle ground. No, that's not
Yeah,
the word.
middle ground. I know what you mean.
Yeah, if you come to a middle ground with them, and then I'm still trying to think of the word. My mind's stuck on it. It's like the middle ground, but it's a different word. It starts with a C.
I said consensus.
That's not it. Coincidence. No.
What are you talking?
I can't think of the word. It's gonna bug me.
Just accept middle ground and move on.
But I can't. The middle ground. Okay, so just come to a middle ground, and then just move on.
Wait. I was thinking of the word center. What's in the middle but starts with a C? Center. Now you're gonna look it up. It's gonna bug you.
It definitely is. I can't move on. I'm trying.
What are you looking up? Middle word that starts with a C. Center.
Compromise.
All of that for compromise.
Idiots.
It's killing me. I'm gonna figure it out. Oh my gosh. But to come back,
Yeah,
bringing it back, I think that is relationships, like I have said since the beginning, it's like it's a big thing in your life, but especially in college. So, and this is just the life lesson in general. you are not necessarily going to get closure. And we can have a whole nother episode about relationships, but for now, you're not necessarily going to get closure from people. People do not owe you closure. You do not owe anyone else closure. If things end sour, you don't have to go back to that person saying like we need to talk about it. Uh we need to just like clear the air. You don't have to. Like if it is not meant to work out and it's causing you more stress trying to come to terms, because in my brain, this is kind of getting off topic, but we'll kind of close it. I'll close it and make it short. When you are trying to get closure, you are just asking for another argument or another disagreement, because when someone is so like in depth in their head in this one opinion, and then you have someone else who is so strong-headed in their opinion, and then you both of you are expecting closure as in making maybe not necessarily making amends, but trying to understand better. You're not going to understand each other if you're so strong-headed in each of your own opinions and thoughts. It is not worth trying to beg each other or have one person beg another one for closure. That's not going to happen, because you have, when people ask for closure, they have this expectation of how it's going to go, and then when it's not going to go that way, you're still not going to feel like you have that closure. So you have to come to terms with it. And like for me, this has happened where I didn't necessarily get closure from some of the relationships or friendships that I had that went sour, and I had to go through the 5 stages of grief to accept it. Because I, especially in high school even, like I would almost, it was something bad that I would never do again. But like I was in a weird headspace in high school where like if a friendship went sour, I, for some people, would almost feel like I was begging to like try to make amends and get closure. But like now as an adult, as I'm 23, looking back on how I treated my relationships in high school, it's like, girl, what are you doing? Like you are begging for something that is never going to come. You played a part in your downfall in your relationships in high school because of how you acted and reacted to things. So they owe you nothing for that, like they owe you no closure, and you're begging for it. Like again, high school in relationships and all these things can be a whole nother thing to talk about. But for college, like if you have bad relationships romantically or friendship wise and they go sour, there needs to there there doesn't need to be closure. Like
Mm-hmm.
you just need to do what you need to do to move to accept it, and then move on to the next part of your life, because it's going to be a lot better.
Yeah.
Once, because I mean, even for me, like in college, like that, my whole roommate situation, friend roommate situation that basically caused me so much trauma, which I'm still dealing with. And I'm moving past, and I'm like on the closer end of accepting and moving forward than not. Like that whole situation, like I didn't get the closure that I wanted, but I'm moving forward from it. And that's okay if it went sour. Like maybe part of it was I had opportunity to make things better or to not be as bad, but at the end of the day, if I'm content and I accept what happened, then that's all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm okay that it went sour. I'm not going to be here begging on my knees asking for this person to come back when I don't want them to come back.
Yeah. It's definitely something that you just have to accept as them, as their personality. That's just their own perspective and their way of life. And sometimes it's like you can come to a compromise, but if you can't, then that's totally all right. Then again, you have to evaluate yourself and just think about, do we have come to terms that we have just two different people. Now, do I want to have that in my life, or is it something that is like I have to distance myself or keep them at a certain level because you just don't want to go through something, or you just just don't want that in your life. So then that's just something that relationship wise that I feel like is good advice to people going through college, because you'll meet a bunch of people, want to make a bunch of friends, and then you just have to evaluate yourself and just feel it out. Like, who do you want in your life? Who do you not want? Who do you want to maybe compromise? And then if there's none, then that's totally okay. But then you just have to dig deep into your inner self and just think about, do
Yeah.
I want to keep going with this friendship? See if like you can compromise with them in a livable agreement. But if it's causing you more harm, then you should pull back and just realize that it's like, I just can't change them, and then I just can't have them in my life. So then you just have to figure out when is a good time to do that and distance yourself. So that's is something hard to
Mm.
a hard pill to swallow, but it's just something that people have to go through in life to figure out.
Yeah, definitely. I think another thing too with like college relationships is like with this acceptance, you have to almost humble yourself. And maybe that's not the term. Wait.
Mhm.
You have to get off your high horse. Because, I mean, to say it bluntly, it's like you're obviously I've said you're gonna make decisions that you're not gonna be proud of later. And you're gonna do a lot of things that can maybe wreck a relationship, that can also affect your mental health. So when it comes down to relationships falling apart, you have to like put yourself in the other person's shoes and think about how they see it. And you have to take responsibility for things that you did to destroy the relationship. Or maybe that's a little harsh to just to destroy the relationship, but you have to take take your faults and admit to them
Yeah,
to
yeah.
yourself, not necessarily to the other person, but I mean, admit it to yourself because then it will help you in that healing path. Because,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, there are plenty of relationships in college and out of college, in high school and whatever, that I had opportunity to be a lot better, but I wasn't. And after sitting and thinking it, because I feel like now that I've aged from 18 to 23, my maturity, and I've been told this, my emotional maturity has significantly increased, especially through my experiences with relationships through college and even before in high school. Since then, I've had a lot of time to reflect on how things have gone in the past, which I know they say not to think too deeply into the past, but like you think about it, like, and I've had time to see the opportunity of like, okay, yeah, I was batshit crazy there. And that was my fault as to why they did not want to talk to me anymore. And that's okay. I completely understand why now. Because yes, I was batshit crazy. I didn't handle it as well as I should have. But I will apply that to the next relationship or friendship that I make now, that I'm going to do better and I'm not going to act like that. um as a as a simple example, but relationships are a big thing for mental health in college, and I feel like people don't realize that as often as they should.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, do you have any other advice?
Um, no, I think that's a good. Relationship is definitely something that just needs worked on. And like at the end of the day, it's like we're at college. It's if there's someone that's beating you down, then it's like you have to realize it's like you might have to cut that tie with them and then just work on education. Like education is
Yeah.
not the only like be there for all. That's not the be there end all. Whatever the end all.
I know what you mean.
But education definitely is like a big part because that's the only reason why because that's the reason why we're here at college.
Yeah.
It's I
You're
mean
there for
have fun along
education,
the
for
way.
sure.
Yeah.
You're there to learn and you're there to get your degree. And the
Mm-hmm.
relationships are just the hurdles if you make them hurdles.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess now it's time for us to talk about ourselves and our conversations that we have with ourselves. So we're gonna get to that topic now.
It rush well, it be much. Now gotta make my top, it rush. the kind money we talk.